Salutations, let's talk about teeth. Cue the poster. Right, so Teeth, in my opinion, is more comedy than horror. I think it's freaking hilarious, but that could be because I'm a woman. I legitimately know men who are terrified of this movie. Grown-ass men who enjoy horror films and are like, that movie. I mean, even if when I imagine being a dude and having that mindset when I'm watching this movie, I would still think it's funny because I would logically know chances of this slim to none. So those few and far between who don't know what this movie's about, basically it's about a girl who has teeth like a lamprey shark thing, except they're not in her mouth. They're kind of in her jank bits, bathing suit space, girl stuff. Anywho, this movie starts with a flashback. Creepy little girl, creepy little boy. Boy's definitely creepier than the girl, but she has creepy eyeball action. Now, sitting in a pool together, parents off in the distance, he decides he's gonna infiltrate her personal space. They're like 6 or something. It was creepy. And he nearly gets his finger bitten off, and she's just sitting there like, fuck yeah. And you're like, oh. And you can tell his parents, hey, my stepsister's jank bit my finger off almost. So they're a blended family. The mother has the daughter, and the father had the son, and now they're married. Four-unit family. We flash forward to present times, and our pool girl, if you will, has become a promise ring wearing motivational speaker towards the youth to keep their innocence intact. Her name's Dawn, by the way. They probably would be useful to know. She goes on these motivational speeches talking about the importance of promise rings and staying true to God. I'm not going into that. People go batshit when you talk about religion, especially on YouTube. I'm not touching that, okay? Anywho, she looks out into the crowd and sees a new face amongst all these youth. And these kids are like in 10, 12, stuff like that, and you're like, oh, I hope they don't really need this speech right now. Now she looks out into the crowd and sees one audience member who's particularly older and her age about. Now later on you find out this character's name is Toby. However, my initial reaction was that he was some sort of crossbreed between Pete Wentz and a Jonas brother. So I was like, oh. So for the sake of my own amusement, we're calling him Pete Jonas for the rest of this review. However, in the film, his name is Toby. Well, her motivational speaking comes to an end. She hangs out with her 2 cool promise ring wearing best friends that happen to be dating. However, they got this. It's okay. They have faith. And they're like, hey, Toby! And it's really like, it's like a bad 80s movie with how like friendly and chipper everyone seems to be. And he comes over, and Pete Jonas looks over at Dawn. Dawn looks at him, and soft violin music starts to play. I love it when they give you these subtle hints in movies. That means they like each other. Soft violin music when 2 characters look at one another always equals love in movies, just so you know. Anyway, she gets home. Turns out her mother's very sick. They never really establish from what. It could be the giant chemical factory that they live in front of. That also could be why the main character has a few extra teeth. Once she gets home, it's also the point in which you learn how that creepy step-sibling turned out. And he's still legitimately creepy. Surprise! Now he's a sideburn beard wearing, jumping out of showers, smoking copious amounts of marijuana, and staying in his room listening to Bree Brees and Jun Jun's kind of creeper. And she just knits and motivationally speaks, and wears shirts that have unicorns on them. Anyway, skipping to the next scene worth mentioning, her couple best friends and her and Toby decide to go to the movies. One of them mentions seeing a movie, and then his girlfriend goes, no, that movie's rated R, we can't see that. And they're like 18, 17, they're not, young by any means. And then good old Don goes, even the PG-13 movie will have heavy making out. And you never see what title they choose, but from the sounds of it, when they're sitting in the movie theater, it's like one of those bad G-rated films. I'm not talking Disney here. Anyway, they're hanging out at this lake / spot where those who don't wear promise rings go to hang out. It comes to Don's attention that Toby is in fact not exactly pure. He has turned over a new leaf, so to speak, which her response is, it's okay, your resolve is probably stronger. You've seen the dangers firsthand. What? Like, I'm not knocking your choice, but dangers? I mean, besides the obvious things you've all learned about in, like, classes on these sort of things, dangers, really? Really, Don? Dangers? Makes it sound like he traveled to Mordor. Anyway, through a series of events, Don goes to talk to said stepbrother thing about how he's been treating his girlfriend because they always argue and she can hear it resounding through the house. And he's like, do you think I like living here with these assholes? And she's like, Mom and Dad? And then he goes, yeah, we all know who you're waiting for. And she goes, what? And he's like totally insinuating that she is waiting for him. And she's like, ugh. And I was like, ugh. And I think that's particularly creepy because when the kids are so young, when they're like just above toddler age, when the parents hook up, it's like they might as well be biological. It's when they're like in the 12 area that it's like still effing creepy because your parents are married, but maybe just a touch less creepy. Maybe. I'm not even promising that. Well, one day she decides life's too short kind of thing, and goes down to the lake, calls him, tells him to meet up with her. Now, I know she's supposed to be a naive, promise ring toting girl. However, I'm mind boggled that she would invite just him to this location, considering its past, and say, hey, let's hang out. Now, I'm not by any means saying she deserved what happened. Please don't misinterpret me, because that's not what I mean. I'm just saying that in retrospect, perhaps this wasn't the greatest place for you to decide to hang out with Pete Jonas. Anywho, they're a cute Christian-loving couple for about 3 minutes, up until you get to a point where Pete Jonas attempts to force himself upon Dawn. He successfully does this for about 2 seconds before the whole teeth aspect comes into the movie. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. Dawn rolls out directly after that incident. She has another riveting motivational speaking gig coming up the next day. When she arrives, she isn't that great at her speaking because she's kind of, mortified and mentally disturbed from what just happened. After which the Christian population of the area has a miniature rave, and not too good at the motivational speaking anymore. Throws out her promise ring, is very sad, and I would understand, and I sympathize for her. I'm not really going to go into it, because I can't give it the justice of description that it deserves. However, from this point on, a series of men experience personal space and finger loss. I'm not going into that. Overall, I say though, funny movie, and if you can watch it with a significant other, good friend, male or female, I think you will enjoy it. So I suggest you do that because it's funny. Or maybe it's horrifying to you. I don't know you, man. Either way, it's worth a shot, because I don't think there are many movies about this subject matter. Anyway, closing up a very sucky review. Nice talking to you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye. The way it wraps around your finger, that's a reminder to keep your present wrapped until the day where you trade it in for that gold ring.